Hey everyone, COVID finally caught up with me, so I'm currently quarantining in my room. And so this is where I'm doing this week's video. And since we are finally into the new year, I figured it's a good time to count down my top 10 movies of last year. As usual, I'll try to avoid spoilers, but no promises. Now, I have 62 movies on my 2022 ranking, and honestly, looking through this list, I didn't see a lot of bad movies this year. Most of them are at least decent, so yeah, I probably won't be doing a worst of list. Because if I do, there's really only going to be like, I don't know, between 3 and 6 that are actually like bad. Who knows? Anything's possible. So, with that in mind, my number 10 is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Honestly, it is great to see other filmmakers following Rian Johnson's example and trying to make subversive new versions of whodunits. And yeah, this was pretty solid. This movie feels like this generation's equivalent of Scream, and I mean that in a good way. The acting is solid across the board, all of the actors are very well cast, their performances are on point. The humor is consistently funny, they do a great job with the mystery. Honestly, when I mention subversive whodunits, this is what I mean. I love that the filmmakers deliberately went with an idiot plot. Now, for those of you who haven't fallen down the rabbit hole that is TV tropes, to quote Roger Ebert, the idiot plot, of course, is any plot that would be resolved in 5 minutes if everyone in the story were not an idiot. And yeah, that basically sums up this movie. That's the kind of thing that is almost always unintentional, is usually the result of bad writing, and because of that, it usually makes the movie worse. Here, they do it on purpose, and they're good enough writers to pull it off, because here, it's justified. It's not that the characters are stupid. A major theme in the movie is that the characters are ultimately destroyed by their own toxicity, paranoia, and narcissism. The fact that they are all drunk and or high certainly doesn't help. They're not idiots, they're just a bunch of other things that make them make stupid decisions.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You listen to her podcast.
Wait, what?
And you made us swear on our lives not to tell anyone.
Jordan, is that true?
I like your podcast, Alice.
What is your podcast about? Hanging out with your smartest and funniest friend. Did you just groan?
No.
When I said hanging out with your smartest and funniest friend. Like that! Like that! You did it again!
No, I didn't!
First of all, a podcast takes a lot of work, okay? You have to organize the guests, you have to do a Google Calendar, and you build a following. It takes a lot of time, and I've been working on it for a while.
Because here's the thing, there was no actual murderer. David's death was the result of his own jealousy and drug-addled stupidity. And everyone else turned against each other because, well, they thought there was a murderer. They didn't bother checking his phone, which presumably would have been laying on the ground nearby. Nope, they just immediately turned on each other. And yeah, that reveal. Oh my god, one of the best endings I've seen in a long time. I love it so much. But yeah, this is just a well-made movie. Technical aspects are all on point. Cinematography, editing, music, blah blah blah, that whole checklist of things I talk about a lot. Yeah, those are all on point. My score is 4.5 out of 5. My number 9 is Prey. Can you say course correction, boys and girls? This movie is exactly the breath of fresh air the Predator franchise needed after that last one. Amber Midthunder is fantastic, and the rest of the cast is all solid. The script is tight, and the writers clearly prioritize the characters over the action scenes without skimping on the action, so well done. There are a lot of setups and payoffs, a lot of which took multiple viewings for me to notice, which is always fun. I also love that we finally get to see the Predator, tracking prey and acting like an actual hunter for once. That was very cool to see.
This is as far as you go. No more. This is it.
My score is 4.5 out of 5. Number 8 is Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Quick little history lesson. I saw Weird Al Yankovic in theater at the Minnesota State Fair in 2010. I was 12 at the time. It was awesome. It was great. I loved it. I'm not big on concerts, but, you know, it's Weird Al. Every, 1 to 5 songs, the band would go backstage to change their outfits for the next bit, because they had a bunch of different outfits lined up, and that was kind of cool. And while they were backstage, they would have clips playing, a lot of which were like interviews and stuff from the Weird Al show that he had for a while. One of them was a trailer for a fake biopic starring Al as himself. 12 years later, the man who directed that trailer directed this movie. That's honestly kind of awesome. If there's any musician whose biopic would benefit from a little artistic license history, it's Weird Al. The man literally made a career out of spoofing existing songs, so it's only logical that his biopic should spoof existing biopics. In this case, it seems to have drawn a lot of inspiration from Bo Rap and Rocket Man. The entire cast is solid. I was a little skeptical on Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al at first, because, you know, he doesn't quite look like Weird Al, even when you put him in the makeup and everything, and I've never heard him sing. And then I watched the movie, and all of a sudden, everything made sense.
Another one rides the bus, and another comes on, and another comes on. Another one rides the bus. Hey, he's gonna sit by you. Another one rides the bus. Another one rides the bus. Another one rides the bus. Ow! Another one rides the bus. Hey, hey! Another one rides the bus. Hey, 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 hey. The window isn't open and the fan is broke, and my face is turning blue. Yeah. I haven't been in a crowd like this since I went to see The Who. Well, I should have got off a couple miles ago, but I couldn't get to the door. There isn't any room for me to breathe. Now we're gonna pick up more. Yeah! Another one rides the bus. Another one rides the bus. And another comes on, and another comes on. Another one rides the bus. Hey, he's gonna sit by you. Another one rides the bus.
But yeah, he is great. Evan Rachel Wood is delightful as this sociopathic version of Madonna. And Jack Black stands out from the supporting cast. He only has a couple minutes of screen time, but he makes every second count. The script is tight, the humor works, and the ending is just so perfect. My score is 4.5 out of 5. Number 7 is Top Gun Maverick. Imagine you go over to a friend's place because they've offered to cook you a cheeseburger for dinner. And it takes them about an hour and a half to make it, and the whole time they're talking it up, and they're talking about how good it is and how a bunch of your other friends have liked it. And you can smell it as it's cooking, and you're starting to buy into the hype because it smells really good. Then they give it to you, and it takes you about 40 minutes to eat it because it's even better than you expected. That's the way Top Gun Maverick handles the big mission.
Pumping in 3, 2, 1. Bombs away.
This movie should be shown in film classes as examples of two things: how to make a proper legacy sequel, and how to have a film with no villain. It excels at both of those things. To clarify, not a film with no antagonist, a film with no villain. Look, say what you will about Tom Cruise, you gotta respect his commitment to realism. The man actually went up in F-18s. I'm pretty sure he wasn't actually in the pilot seat, but he still went up there, and he's... How old is he again? How old is Tom Cruise? 60. The man is 60. Now, granted, when he made this, he's probably closer to 58, but still, 58! And he's going up in an F-18 repeatedly to make this movie. That right there is commitment, y'all. The first Top Gun was a fun 80s action flick, but it does not hold up in a lot of different ways. This movie puts a lot more effort into the characters and their relationships. I love that Hangman, who is basically the new Maverick, is rightly portrayed as a bit of an asshole. Like, yeah, he's still on your side, he's still gonna have your back at the end of the day, but he's also kind of a prick. You know, the smug snake type, or just smug bastard, if you will. However, as is typically the case in real life, he is rightly shown to be not 100% a dick. The script is tight, the acting is all good, if not great. The action sequences are legitimately great, definitely superior to what we got in the first movie. Needless to say, Joseph Kosinski has definitely improved as a director since Oblivion and Tron Legacy. The score is 4.5 out of 5. Number 6 is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. This movie does not pull any punches, and it hits pretty damn hard. Chadwick Boseman is sorely missed, but aside from his absence, this movie is an improvement on the first one. Behind the scenes bullshit aside, Letitia Wright is fantastic in this movie. Oh, probably should have said this at the beginning, but I apologize in advance if I butcher any names. Lupita Nyong'o, Danai Gurira, Winston Duke, Florence Kasumba, Michaela Cole, Martin Freeman, and Angela Bassett are all good, if not great. That being said, Dominique Thorne and Tenoch Huerta absolutely steal the show as Ironheart and Namor. The action is consistently great, and the final battle is one of the most brutal in the MCU.
Hug your ears! It's McQueen.
The score is 5 out of 5. Number 5 is The Menu. This movie has one of the best calling the villain out on their bullshit moments in recent memory. It's also just a very well-made film. It's tense, but it's also darkly comedic. And I mean, maybe not pitch black, but not far off. The acting is just solid across the board. The writing is great.
Who are you?
Margot. My name is Margot.
I've served many Margos. You're not a Margot. No.
What the fuck does it matter?
It matters because this menu, this guest list, this entire evening has been painstakingly planned, and you are not a part of that plan. And it's spoiling everything. In order to proceed, I have to know where to seat you. With us or with them. It's very important.
And then you'll let me live?
That you live? No. Of course not. Can't you see that? And that'd ruin the menu.
To my understanding, they really did their research when it comes to all of the cooking and the food prep and all that, and the ingredients that go into everything, and just... They had people on board to make sure they got all that right, and to my knowledge, they got most, if not all of it right. I don't want to say too much, because this is the kind of movie where you should really just go in knowing as little as possible. So, yeah, let's just say it's great. My score is 5 out of 5. Number 4 is the Batman. Matt Reeves was not fucking around. This movie is a love letter to the titular character. This isn't Batman Year 1, this is Batman Year 2. He's got some experience under his belt, but he's still learning. He's still relatively new. This is what happens when you take Christopher Nolan-level filmmaking and make it just a little more faithful to the comics. Like Michael Keaton, Christian Bale, and Ben Affleck before him, Robert Pattinson has proven himself more than worthy of wearing the cowl. I do wish we had gotten to see more of his Bruce Wayne side, but it's completely justified in the story, and I'm hoping to see more of that side of him as we go forward with the sequels. I don't know if Zoe Kravitz is the best live-action Catwoman to date, but she's definitely up there with Michelle Pfeiffer. So, that's something. And Paul Dano just kills it as the Riddler. I love his new design in this. Jeffrey Wright, Andy Serkis, Colin Farrell, John Turturro, and Jamie Lawson are also great. Much like the previous iterations of Batman, this movie's Batmobile is a perfect embodiment of the piece of media that it's in. Sleek, but not too polished. Cool, but not impractical. This movie finally gives us a live-action Batman who's actually starting to live up to the world's greatest detective moniker. I mean, he's not quite there yet, but, you know, he's on his way. Matt Reeves clearly took a lot of inspiration from Seven, and the detective story here is great, and yet it still feels like a comic book movie. The score is 5 out of 5. Alright, now things are getting good. My number 3 is Nope. This right here, this is cinema. This is like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, in terms of just giving you this wonderful sense of adventure. Except, you know, more of a horror movie, but still, sense of adventure. Jordan Peele is continuing his trend of making movies that aren't actually about what you think they might be about. I knew that going in, and I was still surprised. So, well done. This movie is a perfect blend of its elements. Acting, writing, VFX, cinematography, editing, sound design, sound mixing, costume design, set design, and all of the other things I can't think of off the top of my head that go into filmmaking. It's all just... everything is a puzzle piece, and there are no missing pieces. Everything fits together perfectly. I don't know what all of this was, but whatever. I honestly don't know what else to say without major spoilers or falling down a rabbit hole. So, yeah, it's definitely an improvement over Us, which is still great. Not quite as great as Get Out, But, you know, it's a pretty high bar. My score is 5 out of 5. Number 2 is Glass Onion. Oh, God. Where to even begin? Well, for one, this movie uses the halfway plot switch, sort of. And unlike a lot of other movies that use this trope, the switch happens exactly halfway through the movie. Which is honestly just next level. This movie is just as great as Knives Out, but more entertaining. The entire cast is at the top of their game, the script is tight, and the mystery just keeps you guessing the entire time.
So Miles drives his baby blue Porsche to the scene of the crime, and Andy lets him in. Of course you did. Miles's machine of lawyers and power could destroy her through sheer dumb force, but Miles himself? Oh, she was clever enough not to fear Miles. Well, she didn't see the real threat, the obvious threat, until it was too late. Duke alone knew you were there that night, but he didn't know Andy was dead. No, he didn't know that until this evening. Right out in the open, Duke showed him.
That changes things, right?
It sure does.
And told him exactly what he wanted in return for his silence.
Numbers like this. Maybe we can talk Alpha News.
You bet your ass. Come here.
Birdie, what are the ingredients to your Cuban breeze?
Vodka, amaretto, and pineapple juice.
No pineapple in there, right? Duke don't dance with pineapple.
Pineapple juice? He just put pineapple juice in his whiskey.
Oh, it's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
This movie has the rare distinction of having successfully gaslit me, and honestly, I ain't even mad. Well done, Mr. Johnson. The characters all feel like real people, some of them painfully so. Miles Braun is very clearly a take that directed at Elon Musk, which is hilarious because this movie was completed well before the whole Twitter thing happened. Remember the world before that? Good times. Oh god, this one's like, nope, I don't know what to say without falling down a rabbit hole. Let's just say my score is 5 out of 5. Alright, before we get to the last one, I have some honorable mentions. The honorable mentions aren't necessarily 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever on the list. Some of them are, others are just noteworthy. The Northman. Apparently Robert Eggers has said he will very likely never make a movie set in modern day, and honestly, more power to him. If he keeps delivering this consistent level of quality, I don't mind. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Oh boy! I have never read the original Pinocchio. I've only ever seen the original animated movie. I've also seen the Disney remake, but the less said about that, the better. And holy shit! I know, like, OG fairy tales tend to be on the darker side, and this adaptation actually carries some of that over. And, yeah. Well done. The unbearable weight of massive talent. This movie's tagline is, the most Nicolas Cage movie ever. Success. Violent Night. I don't know how, but this violent action movie somehow managed to be one of the most heartwarming movies of the year. To director Tommy Wirkola, well done, sir. Hellraiser. This is so much better than I expected. A lot of movies this year exceeded my expectations, but very few did so by this much. And finally, Ambulance. A broken clock is right twice a day, and Michael Bay can make 2 great movies. Alright, without further ado, my number 1 is Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is basically Mind Screw the movie. Strip away the crazy visuals, the multiversal madness, and at its core, this movie is about a woman trying to solve her family's personal issues. It fucking works. The difference between Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and this movie is the difference between just a great movie and cinema. Michelle Yeoh is phenomenal. Again, I apologize if I butcher any of these names. Ke Huy Quan is great. And sir, let me just say, welcome back. You have been missed. Stephanie Hsu, James Hong, and Jamie Lee Curtis are all solid. The action is very, very, very well done. The humor rarely misses. Actually, it might not miss at all. I honestly don't remember. It's been a minute since I saw this movie. I'll have to rewatch it soon. This movie starts off seemingly simple. It starts to get complex and confusing, and it becomes more so, more complex, more confusing, more and more and more. And then by the end of it, they tie it all back in together. There are no loose threads, and it's just stick the landing, simple landing. And it all boils down to one simple moment, and it just sticks the landing perfectly. I don't know what else to say. This movie is literally one of a kind. My score is 5 out of 5. Hey everyone, what were your favorite movies of the year? Let me know down in the comments. Like and subscribe and all that. If you don't like the video, subscribe anyway. That way you'll be updated when I upload new videos, and you can tell me how much those suck, and, you know, maybe tell me why. You know, a little constructive criticism never hurt. That's all for now. Stay safe in these crazy times, and for fuck's sake, wear a goddamn mask.